Welcome to another episode of the Zoristar podcast. My guest today is someone I have known for almost my entire Los Angeles professional life. DJ Michelle Pesce is the entertainment industry's top DJ, providing the vibe for the biggest events in film, television, music, sports, fashion, and more. As the founder of Nona Entertainment, she also has a roster of DJs that she represents. And as a co-founder of Woman, she's part of a collective of female DJs with a commitment to providing safety and inclusion in a male-dominated nightlife and festival culture. All right, let's do this. DJ Pesce is in the house.
Hi, Zor.
Hi.
How are you?
I am great. And I was thinking this morning that the last time I saw you was, I think maybe 2 summers ago at the Academy, because you were DJing up on that roof. Yeah. And that was such a fun night because I think you were kicking off a summer series for them of doing outdoor DJing in the summer, right?
Yes, we did 2. I think we might have been too loud for them. I love them. But we did 2 summer parties, which was amazing. And in the Dome, which is like one of my favorite spaces in LA to DJ. Because it's just, you look at our beautiful city, and as the sun goes down and the lights of the Hollywood Hills come up, it's just kind of like, it's unmatched. So that was super fun.
But I also remember one of the first times, or if not the first time that we met, because we've known each other for so long, sometimes it's hard to remember when you actually met somebody. This is my recollection, and maybe it'll jog some memory. I think, okay, I was working at the Hollywood Reporter and you were a publicist, but you asked me to have breakfast with you at Kate Manalini's. You were young in your career. I was young in my journalism career. And we were just sort of talking like how we could best work together because you guys had a lot of clients. And you were telling me that you were doing DJing on the side and that this was something that you loved doing. I think one of the reasons I remember that story is because you said what your dream was and nothing stopped you from that. And so here we are.
It was random. I mean, I grew up in Ohio. I did not think about DJing growing up, but I did always love to go to dance clubs and to go out dancing. And I grew up in a house where music was played loudly, for sure. I was working my way up the PR world. I was at Wolf Casteller. I had won tickets on K-Rock to go to a music festival. And when I went, I saw hundreds of thousands of people jamming out to these amazing artists and bands. And I thought, I wish I could sing. I wish I could play an instrument. And then at night, they had DJs in an airline hangar on the grounds. And I looked up and I saw this female DJ bouncing around. In my mind, she had a blonde ponytail in. And I thought I could do that. And this is when I used to go out to the clubs like 3 to 5 nights a week. And, I had been at Fox Broadcasting before, Wolf Casteller, and another assistant and I used to go out to the clubs all the time. So we went, DJ AM was like my favorite. I was, a super fan, and we would just go out and dance to his sets all night. I got that in my mind. I was an assistant just starting at Wolf Casteller. I was like, I can't, I called a friend when I got home and I said, what do I need to do if I wanted to DJ? And he started telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, this is a big investment. Let me give it 6 months to make sure I still want to do this when I get, in 6 months. 6 months went by. I was like, I still have this thing. I want to do this. So I invested in turntables and a mixer and started buying vinyl, because back then you were on real vinyl. And a bunch of different people, like the guy who sold me the turntables at Sam Ash, or just random guys, said, oh, I'll help you. I'll teach you how to DJ. I'll help you with this, blah, blah. And most of them flaked. And so my turntable started collecting dust because I didn't really know the basics. I didn't know where to start. And I was busy as hell in a PR job. I was busting my butt day and night working there. And then I worked with Matthew Perry. He was hosting an event for Shaquille O'Neal called Shaqtacular. And I was setting up all the logistics with somebody from the company. And they said, oh, we have DJ Spinderella spinning at our event. I'm like, oh my gosh, because hip hop is where my heart is. And he's like, I'll introduce you to, I said, I have turntables, but I'm not, really like.
Matthew said he'll introduce you?
No, not Matthew. It was the guy who was doing the coordination and logistics. So then when I was at the event, the guy insisted on introducing me. And I was like, she's busy, it's fine. He introduced me. She was like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And then it clicked for her, because there were not a lot of female DJs or females with turntables trying to get into this. And she said, wait, you have turntables at your house? And I was like, yeah. And she said, I just moved here from New York. Here's my number, call me. And, I remember calling my best friend, screaming, driving down Wilshire Boulevard, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I could not have met a better
mentor, I guess.
Mentor to be, future mentor than Spinderella, the most, successful, commercially successful and hip hop wise, and what she stands for, and how she markets herself. And so I just stayed on her and kept calling, and she would let me come over, never charged me a dime. I would go over there like once a week and just learn the basics, learn the beat matching, learned the juggling, learned, how to DJ, and also just how to conduct myself. And I really, she rubbed off on me big time.
Let's talk about this mentorship. What were some of the things that she taught you that you still carry with you today? Or what are some of the imprints?
Like, she was business first when it came to DJing, and it's almost like business first and sprinkle in the sexy and the feminine energy after that, but like was focused and was serious about learning the craft and was respectful of the craft and was not doing shortcuts. She's down to earth. She's calm. I'm not the calmest person, but like just watching as she glides through a male-dominated industry, especially at that point in time, and again puts business first, holds her head up high, knows her worth. And she has a daughter who she taught to DJ, and she rubbed off on in all the ways. And her daughter is someone that I have booked through my company that I'm sure we'll talk about, because now she's in her 20s. And I see, obviously, Spinderella has had such an effect on so many women. Mm-hmm. So to be kind of like the big sister in the industry and to take on that role at some point, I think I hit that mark, before I started my company, Nona. I got to the point of, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. I am going to kind of take on this big sister. I started different DJs Who Lunch to bring all the females within LA or whatever together to know the person behind the face. I started Nona to really lift up and bring together other female DJs and to push them to know their worth, to be treated a certain way in the industry by multiple vendors. So anyway, I feel like so much, without her even knowing it probably, and I've told her thank you a million times, but like so much of how she conducts herself, it has rubbed off on me, and I'm constantly in awe of her and thankful. I've been DJing since 2000. I bought my turntables in 2000. I left my job in 2004. So I'm hitting 20 years full-time DJ. And to have this kind of long career is like pretty insane, She led the way so that we can follow, yes. And then we lead the way for the next group of DJs.
Was there a first official booking that meant something to you? Was there something that made you feel that you've officially arrived, or that this was it?
I think I practiced for 2 years before I took my first gig. I think it was almost another 2 years. It was before I left PR to do this full time. So 4 years of doing it, kind of moonlighting before I said, I'm going to try this full time. I remember my first gig, which was Alice and Olivia Pants and Pedicure Party at a hotel in Beverly Hills at the rooftop. And, my friend Johnny Kovach came and picked me up. He picked up the equipment I needed from SIR because we needed speakers and stuff. And I had crates of, lugged my crates of vinyl. And I don't even think I had enough album records. I think I played a couple songs twice because this was my first gig. And I kept saying, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. And then one night I had this breakdown in my little apartment in Palms. And I thought, I don't want to have a monotonous life. I don't want to like get up, do everything the same, prepare for the next day, and then like do it all over again. And the next day, my friend Amy called me about the pants and pedicure party, and so I said yes. So that was my first gig, and I'll never forget it. And I have photos from it. But then there's always these like next level that I hit. Doing Good Morning America was one of those things. Doing the official Grammy after party for 10 years was one of those things. I think Good Morning America meant a lot because my grandma in Ohio could see me. So like, never mind the millions of people that tune in every morning to Good Morning America. My grandma in Youngstown, Ohio was watching me and so proud. And like, that warmed my heart.
I know, it's like you're making me cry because I get it. We live in this industry where there's so like famous people around in our vicinity, but like it only really truly means something when like our mom or our dad or our aunts and uncles, or like when like the people who raised us, the people who were with us, for them to see that it blows everything else out of the water. It's the most important thing,
They lived through the Depression. My grandma did raise me since I was 14. So they lived through the Depression, and she did not understand me she didn't understand me moving to LA with no job, way back when. And she did not understand me leaving my job to try this DJ thing. As I was moving along through the DJ career, I would come home to my old bedroom in her house, and there would be newspaper clippings or magazine clippings, because back then they mentioned DJs because it was like this new kind of thing, and she would see it and she was so proud. And so crazy story, I'm just going to share real fast. One time we were in Florida for a wedding, because we have some family there, and my grandma was there, and we went to this restaurant we've never been before. We used to go every Christmas or around Christmas time to Florida. And I look and I see this woman sitting at the bar, and she's got this cool tank top on. It's like bedazzled or whatever. And I look and it's Spinderella sitting there. My grandma's never met my mentor, and my grandma is my first mentor. And my jaw dropped. She was there for a gig, and we were there. We just happened to go to this one restaurant at this one day. We were there for a family member's wedding, and so my grandma got to meet her.
Oh.
I mean, how does that happen, right? Like, how in the world does that happen?
So your clients, your PR clients, this is where you're allowed to name drop if you want to, because Wolf Casteller represents so many high-level clients. What are some of the clients that you worked with? You did mention Matthew Perry, rest in peace. But did those clients, did they help you in any way in terms of like being supportive of what you were doing and helping you in some way? Or was that kind of separate?
Britney Spears was one of my clients, and I cut my teeth on that account. I was an assistant, and then when I left Wolf Casteller, I was a publicist with an office and an assistant, an office with windows, and everyone was like, "You're leaving to try to DJ? Are you crazy?" Like, my friends thought I was insane. And so Britney Spears did hire me for I believe it was her brother's like engagement bachelor party. It was in People magazine. I think the Pussycat Dolls like performed or something. It was like this crazy thing. So she did. And then I feel like Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey like hired me for something too. And Wolf Casteller has supported me, and I've gone back and like DJ'd the opening of their new offices, or when I see something like environmental this or that event, and I know that Lisa, touches it in some way, like I call her and I'm like, "Can you introduce me to these people? I should be doing this environmental event."
I do have to say that when Matthew Perry did pass away, I thought of you, because I do remember that was your client. And I was just thinking like, How does that affect somebody like you when that person is a client? It's a very close and intense relationships at times, right?
He was Lisa's client forever, and she trusted me with him, which, that was one of her babies, so I think you still don't wrap your head fully around it, and I work with such high level clients and events, and working at Wolf Castellar, a girl from Ohio, right, was probably a little like, oh my gosh, bright-eyed over there with the caliber of clients that we were working with. I think it really led me to know how to conduct myself and, know how to be responsible with what people are sharing with me and what I'm seeing in spaces, and not exploit any of that. Each of those clients there, and Matthew, because you brought him up, his humor. We were constantly laughing around Matthew. He was just witty and a smart ass, and you just loved him. You loved Matthew. Of course you did.
Yeah.
And like Britney, I mean, I was just like this young assistant working so deeply in it that Lisa, there's another publicist on her account, but one day we were going to have 3 photo shoots in one day, and I was doing all the logistics and getting it all ready in LA in our office, and she pulled me in her office and she said, I think you need to come with me. And I thought, is the publicist that's on her account with you going? She's like, it's fine, I'm going to deal with it, but I think I need you there because you're so involved in this. And it was me flying, staying at the Ritz-Carlton, doing 3 sessions in one day with Britney, and an amazing photographer. I think it was Mark Seliger for at least 2 of those sessions that day. But anyway, just that quick, fast pace, get it done, dive into the artistic nature of it all. And I really cut my teeth on that account, and it was so exciting. I mean, she was a phenomenon, what was happening.
You were there at really amazing high points of their careers. And years later, when you watch things unfold and how they end up, do you take those lessons in for yourself? Like, do you caution yourself in a way, because you're here to have longevity as well? And Hollywood is a town that can, chew them up, spit them out, they say.
I think I learned that shortly after I moved here, just seeing different young people pass away, knowing some of the struggles that some of our clients had, being in the nightlife scene and seeing how hard some people can take that. I kind of have like my head above the sky, like the clouds, because I've got ideas and I'm passionate and I'm all over the place, but like my feet on the ground, right? And not to get too lost in the hunger of LA and Hollywood, and then like the nightlife. I mean, nightlife can spit you out. Like, I'm so happy we close at 2 a.m. in Los Angeles. Healthier lifestyle. Even just like DJing, I've got to keep my head together because I'm working, even though I'm having a couple cocktails. Like, I'm working, so you've got to like keep your sense about you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I have seen so many people lose themselves to just the competition and the grind of LA, mm-hmm. and then also like drugs and alcohol.
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like probably my Midwest upbringing kept my feet on the ground. I remember thinking, oh, I would never spend that on a t-shirt. And then suddenly a few years later, you're spending that on a t-shirt, and like the value of $1, I was like, the value of $1 has changed for me, right? This is like kind of insane. And checking yourself, and asking friends to check you. I'm a nudger. If I can dish it, I need to be able to, I have to take it too. I probably always have a fear because of my childhood of losing what I fight for or work for or, have accomplished. And so that there's probably some fear inside of me too. And definitely a fire, don't mess up. And it's not that I haven't messed up. I've messed up.
So tell me something that was stupid. I mean, I don't need to hear stories that are not related to your work, obviously, unless you want to like have a full-on confessional right now. But I've always known you to comport yourself in a way that's always been professional and friendly. Like I can't picture you fucking up in any way.
Sometimes I feel like, we all do, right? Like I'm hanging on by a thread, or, God, I grew up in an Italian household. We had little tempers, and like I have not been my best self. I can think of 2 times in clubs, not in private events, but in clubs where I like look back now and I'm like, I'm a homeowner. You cannot behave like that, Like just I'm a fast learner. So like check yourself, Michelle. Like you have things to lose. You have a reputation to lose. And then like a stupid mistake was like, I had gotten an email, this is just a stupid mistake, from, Oprah's team about doing a holiday party for her, which would have been like amazing. And I thought it was just a spam email from like Oprah.com or whatever, because I, followed some stuff. And so I didn't check it until I was like going through and cleaning out a week or 2 later. And I missed the opportunity because they had already gotten someone, so like learning those little things. But, and I'm constantly learning about negotiating and always, and managing, like having a team under you. I mean, I'm always learning about that. But like, there are times you are in nightlife and behaviors and, or back in the day, like having a boyfriend and he'd be fighting with me in the DJ booth. And I'm like, no, this is not cool. And he would push back of like, no one's paying attention. I'm like, this is not,
So what's the biggest misconception about DJing?
Well, people are like, you have the coolest job all the time, right? And I'm like, it's still work. People are putting a lot of money into these parties that I'm doing, and I still need to, show up in a certain way. I love turntables. These are my 2 turntables from day one. But I believe in like learning the basics and really respecting the craft and keeping the bar at a certain level of good quality DJing. Now there are turntablists, there are party DJs, there are people like New York DJs that like hard throw, more songs in. There's different types of DJs, but because of the newer equipment, it's such an easier art to take up. And I just really get frustrated. I have very strong opinions about like respecting the craft of DJing. And if you want to be in this arena, respect it and don't lower the bar. There are differences between music curators, someone who has a great taste in music, and a DJ, someone who can read a room. They know how to start. They know where the crowd is and when they can take it to the next level. And they're taking you on a journey. And then they can blend and mix well, and the song selection makes sense from one to the next. And no set is perfect. I mean, rarely is it a perfect set, but it happens. But I just think that technology has made it. We are now an oversaturated market. When I started, or industry, when I started, I can kind of name the DJs that were doing the Hollywood events on 2 hands. I can name the female DJs I knew on 2 hands, and now there's just so many DJs, which is a beautiful thing, and music makes the world go around, and I want everybody to dance. I just think, be careful before you take that first gig. Be careful before you call yourself a DJ, because like, I just want people to take it more seriously and keep the bar high instead of, if you ask a kid, imitate, or what does a DJ do? It's this, it's turning knobs in this. And half of that knob turning is bullshit. It's not even like the half of that knob turning, but like, this is what, this kind of thing. And I'm like, there is like an actual art going on. And when you watch real DJs, it's a beautiful thing. Or in that room where, I get in arguments with people about this a lot, because we've now become accustomed to like shitty mixing, because so many people are doing shitty mixing and they're just throwing on like a good song. And is that DJing? I think it's not. I don't have the hard answer. I don't know if there's a right or wrong. It's just, I think, lowering the bar of the art of DJing.
So what is that art? Tell me about creating a playlist or reading a room. Uh, what does that mean when you get hired for something? What are your next steps? Do you talk to the client and find out what types of people are going to be there and you kind of try to plan accordingly? Do they tell you we like these songs and you're like, no, that's not how it works. It's a more of a vibe thing. Like how is that? What's the mental process for
Love
you?
this question. So I learned off of one of my first gigs where I was on vinyl. So when you are on vinyl only, because we didn't have a Serato yet at this point. This was very early in my career. I learned this lesson of, whatever vinyl I brought, that's what I had. You didn't have other options, right? And he wasn't a hip hop lover, this client. And he had a bunch of political people it was a suite at a fancy hotel in Century City and the penthouse. And he was having this party. And I was like, but he heard me at this party where I played a bunch of hip hop. And they're like, let's just do Prince and Michael Jackson. I'm like, for hours, like the same two artists, like what? And so I learned from that, have the conversation with the client about what music they expect. I don't go into an event knowing my first song or my 50th song. I just like to have a folder, usually of what we've discussed. I like to know, yes, who's going to be in the party. Do you want a dance party? Is it more background vibey? Is it background vibey and like you'd be thrilled if it turns into a dance party? And then I love, and depending on like if it's a personal client for a birthday or a wedding or something like that, I definitely have like a much more intimate, like going through artists with them. Otherwise, I'll get like, like 90s, early 2000s, hip hop, rock, like whatever, or like new hip hop. And then, try to ask them. I try to get as much as I can beforehand. And I don't want like a list that like, I have to find my flow during the sets, right? So like if I just have a folder where I've pulled a bunch of good things and then have the overall in mind of what they wanted for that, which I like to have as close to the event as possible or have it early when we're booking and then, remind myself or have another creative call as we're getting really close so that it's fresh in my body and in my mind, what that client wanted. So when I walk in, I might have heard something on the radio in the Uber, or when I walk into an event, if there's another DJ opening, you got to fill out where they are and see where you take it from there. Every event is different for sure. I've been homing in on vibe for 24 years plus going to the clubs, but like as, a DJ for over 20 years now. So like that is really, I'm like paying attention so much to vibe.
So let's use an example. You've been doing the SAG Awards after party for several years now, right? So that's a party where SAG Awards, they aired on Netflix this year. After that award show was over, everyone goes into a venue space where there's food and drinks and there's people with their statuettes that they've won. You've been doing it for years, so you know exactly what they want and what the vibe is or how you want to crescendo it. So what are some of the things that you take into consideration?
I go deeper on things. I'm looking at what casts are there and who's fun, who is probably a dance cast or whatever, or who I know to be dancers from a cast. And where are they seated even? I get the seating chart just so I know like where my little pockets are because it's such a big room. They literally walk out of the award show down a hallway and right into this big space. And then I will do research. When I realize like who my probable dancers are in the room, I start going and Googling what their music tastes are. This is my prep before before the day of, so that I have those songs in a folder added. There will be a cast every year that just warms my heart and gets the whole thing going. This past year it was Ted Lasso. Oh my gosh. First, they changed into the sweatsuits, the Nike sweatsuits that they had made just days before. So this was their last time together, and they went off on the dance floor. They were so much fun. They were just ready to get down and celebrate. And like when you think about the show came on during COVID and brought so much happiness to so many of us. So like it like literally chokes me up to think like that I was able to be there to facilitate this journey, that they had, like hanging out together and celebrating what they created. And also just like for Hollywood, I want us to have fun again. It's been a rough 4 years. We got through COVID and then a strike we're still feeling the reverberations of. So, I think whenever, and my clients know this, like if I can support us being fun and cool and all the things, and like just light and bringing people together again, that is super important to me. I mean, I've grown up, my adult life in this industry that I never could have thought this would be like my path.
At what point do you go, hey, I'm going to branch out? Because you have branched out. You could have just continued to DJ and be comfortable in that. And I've seen on your Instagram that you've even had the opportunity to travel to these awesome places. Like you'll post something from some, tropical country, and I get so happy for you because you're not just Hollywood and awards and that kind of stuff. But at what point do you say, like, I am going to start a company called Nona. I am going to branch out to woman. Where does that come from? Like, why throw in a whole other thing on top of everything else that you're doing?
I had always just booked myself. I never had an agent or manager. And when I started doing the Grammy after party for the Recording Academy, people started approaching me to represent me. So I almost went in, I was about to go into a meeting with one of the companies that wanted to represent me for DJing. And I thought, why am I going to go and hand over all these contacts, these amazing contacts I've made with, brands and in Hollywood and studios to somebody? I'm going to go let them pitch me. And then I'm going to pitch them that I can come in and be represented by you, but I want to head your private events division. Like, I want to be the head of that. So that's what I did. We agreed. And then we went through contract negotiations and we got stuck on something. And they're like, we know we said we could do this, but we can't. And it was like all good vibes, but I just dragged my feet and then they shuttered. They closed their doors. And I was like, okay, Michelle, I kept saying, I just want to go internal somewhere for like a year and then I can do it on my own. And everyone was like, you're crazy. Just do this on your own. So I, from there, decided to start Nona, where I rep other DJs. And I was like, you know what? I might not have all the answers, but I've been figuring it out for myself for all these years. And I can ask people in the industry, and I might just have like a more casual way of doing things or a different way, but it's working and it's fine. So I started Nona, which is after like grandma in Italian, but I dropped one of the N's.
Why? Why did you drop one of the N's?
I just thought it was cleaner. So I just went with Nona. It's kind of funny to call a DJ firm like after grandma. I mean, it's kind of comical. So sure, let's do it. A couple of years later, I started with my, we started with 5 of us and then went to 4, woman collective, which is a nightlife collective. 3 of us are DJs and then an event producer, and really to create more inclusive and safer spaces within nightlife, because there's so much toxicity and so much problematic behavior. And then also like we started with Golden Voice. We went to Coachella and started their Everyone space, which gave extra support to anyone who needed a counselor, had any kind of assault on them. Our woman collectives teamed up with Golden Voice. They wanted for Coachella to call it, and for Stagecoach too, to call it Everyone. So that's what we teamed up and we launched that with them.
So the goal is to have a safe space within that festival in case something happens to somebody.
Yes, if something happens to somebody, we also had trained teams to comb the grounds. If somebody is sitting there freaking out, crying, their phone's dead, they've lost somebody, like after the shooting in Vegas, we were at Stagecoach, and let me tell you, there were grown men who came to our space to have quiet, to have less stimulation. We had like weighted blankets and coloring books and counselors and access to medics and access to the police if we needed that. And just a quiet space to get out of the craziness because people were overwhelmed and they were triggered. Having a team that combed the grounds to, if you see something, say something, to call out bad behavior. There are really drunk people. Not everybody wants to leave and go and like get somebody to help them. But like, it's not even just about people that were intoxicated or, you know, on any kind of substances. It was, you know, anybody like combing the grounds to make sure that like you see us, we're here if you need us. And we're also like, there were people that just, there were people arguing, fighting, and just we trained everybody in de-escalation. I mean, we were out there for, I think, 2 weeks before the festival started, going through training.
But how does is it events that you guys are DJing at, or this is totally separate?
Totally separate. I mean, of course, we could bring it up to our clients if we're DJing stuff, but we were pitching this and launching this to go in, and we had an executive director. It's not that we DJs know how to, we just know the needs. And we brought in people that have been doing this work for 20, 30 years to train teams and to train even to go with the client so the client understands. But this was not us training people. This was just us seeing the issue and using our platforms and our voices and our people who know our names to say, you know, there was a piece written up last year about all the sexual assaults that happened at X and X festival. We think that this would be a great idea to have at your festival, you know?
Yeah. So basically, as a DJ, you have a front row seat to these massive events, be they festivals or clubs, like you said, and you from your vantage point, you can see misbehavior and the need to have support for anyone who is victimized or people there before anything happens, before there's a victim, right?
Yep, exactly.
When you talked to me a few minutes ago about clubs and toxicity and all that kind of stuff, what is that culture like?
You know, and I think it's changing with, for sure, younger generation. I also think the younger kids don't drink like, you know, we drink, but like you should be able to be free in a space that is playing music and that is there to dance and enjoy. I love that some spaces and parties and artists are like locking up the phone so that the cameras aren't in your face, or if, you know, like, I just think we've lost a sense of freedom and fun and presence from these phones, right? Also, like, we're in a world where like there's fentanyl overdosing happening, and I'm like, we need Narcan. We need, you know, I'm even like, should I bring testing strips if anyone wants to test their drink? You know, I like supporting like people that way. We handed out condoms when we were at the Everyone Coachella space, you know, and just safety so that you can be free, right? Is really what it is. Because like, you're at a music festival, you should be able to just be present and in the moment and not thinking about all the things that can go wrong.
One last question regarding Nona. How do you build a roster?
It started probably with I had been in the industry, so I knew who I thought were great DJs. We book almost all of our DJs non-exclusively. So because my career was is still so busy, I was like, I don't want to feel like I have to feed 7 DJs every month. So I'm going to book non-exclusively, which means I have non-exclusive contracts with over 24 DJs. And if somebody told me they wanted this whatever DJ, I could go try to book that for them. And it really allows me to home in on who's playing like from their heart, that kind of set, and who's right musically, who's right, like their energy behind the deck. Some people want like a vibey or cooler. Some people want high energy DJ, you know, that's like, just, there's different things. Sometimes I look at brand crossover, like people call me for environmental gigs a lot now because they know I speak up so much about sustainability and the environment, and it's a great fit. And it's also a passion point, so I'm probably going to give them a great rate. And then I think that sometimes the client's personality, there's certain DJs that would do better than others, you know, in that space and working with them. So I look at those things. I definitely feel like an asshole because I have people message me at least once a week because they want to be on Nona's roster and they want to be within Nona. And I just am not ready to quite, like, if I'm out at a spot and I hear you and I get your information, that is the best way right now because I'm hearing you. I want to hear them in person. I want, you know, even knowing, like, not knowing that I'm in the room or whatever. But since COVID, I have not had an assistant, which is, I usually have 2 to 3 assistants. And so I just am like, I've got to get my team back into a place before I can take a bunch of new DJs on. But I think it's really, you know, going out and hearing people. And I constantly say, like, tell me when you're playing and I'll come out. Because I also think that there's like this thing of like, hey, I'm a really good DJ. Will you hire me? And I'm like, let me hear you spin. Send me your schedule. Stay on me. And the ones that do, I end up booking and have booked for years, you know? And I just think like perseverance and that work ethic impresses me personally. Not everybody cares about that, but it does for me, for sure.
Speaking of environmental, as long as I've known you, you have had the biggest passion for elephants. And I was so thrilled to one time years ago, you actually went to an elephant sanctuary in Africa. And I was like watching this going, oh my God, this is her dream. Like, where did that start? I'm always curious why we end up with the ones that we do. So for you, it's elephants. Why?
Okay. So I don't want to get into a therapy session here, but I've questioned this a lot. So I was driving to my a graphic designer, an old friend of mine. I was working on something. I think he was helping me with a website or something. And I had NPR on, and I hear this teacher from Crossroads who had produced this documentary film, Elephant Plus Man, A Litany of Tragedy. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube right now. I was bawling my eyes out about elephants. I had never had this big thing with elephants before. I was bawling. And just about the conversation. I didn't watch the film yet. So then I ended up watching it, and it, like, guttural, gut-wrenching cries were coming out of me. And I think my mother died when I was 2.5. So I think that taking the baby away from her mother forcibly, and like the bond between elephants, especially female elephants, and the entire family, they stay together their entire lives, the female herd, 80 years, you know, like humans don't stay in the same house. And like, it's so deep and beautiful. And when you support zoos and support circuses, you are tearing these families apart. And like the breaking of an elephant and how they do it, that baby crying for its mama, it just
in the box and everything. Yeah,
so that started it. And I messaged that woman, that teacher at Crossroads. I had her, this is who I am. I had her send me a bunch of DVDs, and I would have them in my car. So if I'd have lunch or be at a friend's house or whatever, and we'd get on this conversation because I was so passionate, I'm highly passionate. I would go to my trunk and give them a DVD to watch this movie. If you watch it, I'll give you one. If you promise me you'll watch it, I'll give you one. It's only an hour. You know, I go to a wild animal convention with PAWS, which is one of the 2 largest elephant sanctuaries in the United States. They're in Northern California. They're doing amazing work, and they have an animal conference every 2 years about captive and wild animals. And so I was going to that, and I met someone from Kenya, and you know, she ended up being our guide, basically. She was with us and we went to all the Sheldrick locations in Africa, and Kenya. And so it was an amazing journey.
To wrap this up, I mean, what's next? Are there still venues and festivals or award shows that you have yet to conquer and that you have that dream gig?
I question that. Like, of course, during COVID, I was like, is this when I like exit, peace out? And then, you know, and then we started doing premieres at drive-ins, and I kind of like helped so much with that and tried to get everybody working because everyone needed a little lift and some money in their pockets because we were so on lockdown, right? Festivals are not doing so great right now. And you know, I just want us to get back to like, I think parties with no phones is like what I want to be doing. I'm leaving in 30 minutes to go and play like a brunch on a rooftop. And I think, you know, I people know me for hip hop and old school hip hop so much. And I'm like, I want to play in Europe while the sun is going down, like a deep house set. But my version of like, it would be like hip hop songs remixed and old school songs remixed, and then like, you know, Frank Ocean remixed, like, you know, good beats to it. But business wise, getting my team back together and up and running, like I want them so I can expand. I feel like that is like a business next step for me. We've got Coachella coming with Absolute, and so that is like a very near focus. And then just kind of expanding who I'm working with.
Do you have a schedule that you publicize?
I will send out emails, not every week, but like once a month, just saying, here's where I'm at. So people can email me, and maybe we can put that up, to get added to my email group. And then on our Instagram, so I'm at DJ Michelle Pesce, and then at Nona Entertainment is our company Instagram. And yeah, people can absolutely reach out to me. And if they mention the watching this and they made it this far, you're it. You're it.
And off she goes to her brunch. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. But listen, before you go, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, and you'll get notified when new episodes of Zoristar are released. I'll see you soon.